Hey everyone, Adam and Andrew here with It Takes Two Takes, here to talk about episode 4 for season 2 of Warrior. See, episode 4, I I may consider it episode sort of 3B in a way to what was 3A, the last episode.
I mean, we start off at the beginning of the episode with exactly where last episode turned off,
Yes,
or set off, where we got Lee and O'Hare at O'Hare's place, and Lee's kind of pissed. Uh,
he
Lee's
is.
Lee's kind of pissed because he's like, all right, what the hell is going on? Because this just happened, right? And I kind of called it last episode. So there's a few things that happened last episode that I kind of called out, or we both talked about, and I think they really came into play this episode. The first was I said last time that Lee was going to be pissed at O'Hare about the whole situation at the end of the last episode with the, I had to, kind of defend your family, and he absolutely is pissed. And we
Sure.
find out that he gets told that the whole reason he got jacked last season at the end was because of O'Hare and his gambling debt,
Yeah.
and that really set Lee off.
He's had enough. I mean, we saw what happened at the end of that episode. Like, no one should ever have to go through that. Lee's beside himself at this point, and O'Hara, it sort of in classic, I don't know, uh, script writing fashion. You've got a moment where I feel like it could have been explained a little bit better in the moment, but instead he lets him storm off, and Lee doesn't get the full story. Granted, I
Well,
don't know that the full story would have helped things, but
yeah, I mean, O'Hare told him that, okay, I was in debt. I started working for the Feng Hai, and I then tried to quit. And Lee asked him flat out, like, okay, so was the whole reason I got jumped last time was because of this? And O'Hare told him, yeah. And
which I
Lee,
don't know that was the right answer. Factually, yes, it was correct. But that moment when he said that, I was like, you don't just drop yeah and leave it at that and like let it breathe. Like, no, you explain things more. I was a little bit irritated with that exchange because I feel like Lee, as much as he deserves, a better situation, let's say, but he certainly deserves more of an explanation. And I felt like O'Hare just, I get it. His family just was, escorted off. They're
well,
in protection.
and his family, his wife flat out said, don't call me type of deal, right?
Right. Yeah. Like, so he's a bit stunned. I understand. But I feel like there's a moment where you can at least level with somebody, and Lee is the person to do it with at that point. And he just, I'm glad that he was honest and he let it out. But I just feel like there could have been a little bit more, I don't know, context that could have been given in the moment. But okay, we'll save it for another episode.
Well, and then later on in the episode, we get Chow coming to O'Hare and saying, I got your swordsman. And we
Right.
see him absolutely throwing Zing under the bus, right? So last week we talked about the idea that, Chow was being put in the corner and maybe he would go towards the hopway. But instead, what appears to be happening is instead of my prediction of he might be leaning towards the hopway, he is absolutely going towards the police instead. And he's setting Zing up as the fall guy for the swordsman that's been killing people.
Yeah. I mean, which kind of, removes any suspicion of a toy in that scenario, of course.
Right.
And
Which
and,
a toy, even the toy is sitting there going, this is kind of nuts, right?
right. So I think it's an interesting plan that will pay off in future episodes. Absolutely. I think, Chow, we were both speculating on where his role is going to fit in all this as things progress. And I'm curious to see how his now relationship and his sort of, he's always been that sort of, not chameleon, but he's got no sides. And here he
Right.
is now volunteering information to the police. I'm curious to see how this all ends up for him.
But O'Hare now, who's been pressured about finding the swordsman, has now got to go to the mayor and his captain and say, hey, let's hold off for 2 days because Chow is coming to him and saying, I can deliver you Zing pretty much and the swordsman. And that pushes O'Hare in a really weird position where everyone wants Chinese blood, but he's got to hold everyone back for like 2 days.
Yeah, because he asked for 2 days essentially, right? And
Right.
yeah, I'm curious to see how that timeline's gonna affect the timeline on the episodes that we have remaining.
I was going to say that the other thing we had talked about last week was the idea of Sophie and Leary. And we talked about the fact that Sophie saw the map and how does she not see Mercer? And we got the answer this week, right?
Yeah.
Mercer wasn't really on the list, and she calls Leary out about it. And
Yeah.
he flat out says that it has nothing to do with her on the reason Mercer's not on the list. And ultimately, Mercer ends up on the list because Sophie and Penelope have a confrontation that leaves Sophie being a spoiled brat and just going straight to Leary and saying, I can get you into Mercer.
Right. Like you're exactly right. That struck me as well. Like we talked about the last episode where it was like, oh, how did she not notice that? Oh, yeah, like you said, it wasn't on there. Like she was very aware that it wasn't on the map. And
Right.
yet she goes in and goes, "Hey, I know a secret tunnel that'll get you in there," and just leads him and his gang right in there, which yeah, I don't Sophie to me was kind of becoming an interesting character, and I'm not to say she's not interesting, but her kind of
She's coming off as a spoiled, entitled
yeah
brat. I mean, she
yeah
really is. Every aspect of her is coming off as a spoiled, entitled brat. I mean, she
Right.
hooks up with Leary, sees him serving out, food, and then goes to have a confrontation with her sister, and then goes, well, since I'm mad at you now, I'm going to go tell Leary about the secret entrance. And then after that whole fiasco, she goes back to her sister and kind of sobs all dirty like. I mean,
yeah
she's she's not coming off very good right now.
someone that I thought would be an interesting character, would kind of disrupt things, probably still, well, clearly still does, but in a different way. Yeah, like exactly. Like I feel like, I don't know, I thought she was more aware of things, but now it's just kind of this petulant, like, and granted, Penelope's kind of feeding us this thought
Right.
of her being, you've done nothing, you've accomplished nothing, you
Oh,
don't finish anything you've started.
When
And
Penelope
you're
went
putting her
off
down.
on her, when Penelope went off on her, I was actually almost cheering that
Yeah,
because
yeah, I
she's
agree.
not wrong.
Especially everything she's put up with in her own life. Like, I feel like it was a fair assessment of
Yeah,
Sophie.
you've done nothing. You've absolutely contributed nothing. You've done nothing, and
There was a little added venom behind it because of what
Yeah.
she's been dealing with in her own endeavors, which I guess could bring us into that, right? When we talk about Mercer Steele and everything that Penelope's dealing with, and her husband, who is
he got put in his place. Like, you can cancel the contract, but you're gonna have to still pay, right?
right.
I mean, she flat out told him that you need to read the contract because I've talked to a lawyer, and the lawyer says you're going to have to pay for everything, even if you pull the contract.
Yeah.
So
and basically
it actually
like,
makes
you didn't hire legal counsel? You probably should.
right. And he thought he was being all big man, like I'm going to pull. That's it. I'm pulling the contract, and she put him in his place really, really quick.
I will say, when it comes down to that, and her arguments for her protection, with not actually using Irish to protect her because she cannot afford them, as she
Right.
states to Sophie. But that showdown, I don't want to say showdown, I'm going to use that very lightly, but Assam walking out and having this conversation with Leary.
Oh,
On one hand,
that was so good.
the
That was
dialogue,
so
the whole back and forth, fantastic.
Oh,
On one hand, I was very excited in that moment, and I was like, yes. On the other hand, I was like, I don't know that I have time for this right now. There is so much conflict. We still have Zing out there. I don't know that I want this, but I'm not there yet. But it was so well delivered. I can't refuse it. I can't say that it wasn't worthwhile. It certainly was a great back and forth of dialogue between the two. And arguably, they both kind of, certainly Leary, I feel like, I would hope, had a bit of respect, but certainly animosity more than anything else. But they knew they were worthy foes, I feel like, in that moment.
It was the buildup that we needed a little bit based on the end of last season, right?
Yes.
Because Leary at the end of last season was just like, I'm going to find you type of attitude.
Yep.
And we get them squaring off. Leary finding out he's Hopway watching out for Mercer. And they have that square off that was so good. You could see that Leary wanted the fight. And you could see that Assam even wanted the fight.
Yeah.
It was such a good kind of like standoff. Oh, that was beautiful. Even though the fact there was no actual fight,
Yeah.
I loved them squaring off the way they did. It was just absolutely amazing where just Assam tells him his name and even says, like, I'm the guy in the suit, type of idea. Oh, it was so beautiful. I cannot wait. I assume that this season we're going to see the fight, but it helps build that tension. He's calling him out like, you realize you're just a Chinese person, right?
Yeah.
It was so good. I love that
Meanwhile,
moment.
the whole time I'm watching that scene going like, how you're not American technically. I mean, granted, at that time I'm like, you're Irish. Like,
right.
It's that whole, and they know that as they're developing that scene, and I'm just like waiting for Assam to call it out too. But I get it. Everything from he speaks English, so therefore he considers himself American, and not only that, but he's got this beef. Like, he's taking their jobs. I get it, but Assam handled it perfectly, both in the way that he calmly confronted him, called him out, even said like I know you want to do it, go ahead, do this, make your move. And Leary also, oddly enough, patiently walked away from the moment. I feel like we deserve it at this point, because again, we've gone through 2 episodes where I don't mind character building, I don't mind letting the world building and all of it just breathe, grow. But 2 episodes is enough.
This episode felt like tension building.
Yes.
So much. It felt like when you saw Atoy and Mai Ling kind of squaring off, this was so much about tension building between different characters, right? Lee and O'Hare, Atoy and Mai Ling, Assam and Leary. This was so much about tension building in this episode. It was fantastic in the way it did it.
I jokingly refer to this as early in this this review as episode 3B, but what I mean by that is if we have a 3A and a 3B, 3A episode 3 was continuing to build, and to me this episode 4 3B was, we've built, and now we're seeing the stress, we're seeing the wavering, we're seeing where is this going to end up, and what have we just built, and what are the implications. That's what this episode was. I knew it. I just was hungry for some more action, and we get to a point where ultimately Leary's crew, they go in through this secret tunnel, and Mercer Steel is, I don't even know what shape it's in, but it's not good. They essentially, it's up in smoke. And there was a bit of a confrontation there. It wasn't the most well lit, and certainly not a well choreographed scene in terms of what you're able to see and what's happening. It was pretty raw. That's kind of where they more or less ended things in this episode, and that's fine.
They did. I mean, we saw ultimately Sophie calling, I can get you in. And even though Leary wasn't planning to go after Mercer,
right?
He told Sophie that it didn't matter about her. He was going to go Mercer regardless of her anyway. And she gave him an N. He goes for the N. We see a conflict and an explosion, right? I mean, that'll be interesting really a lot more in the next episode. I don't think the fight that happened at Mercer Steel was that significant other than Leary getting cut a little bit.
Yeah.
But what we saw is Sophie's reaction to that, because after the fact, she goes back home to Penelope, and she's remorseful, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But honestly, there was a lot of other things I think in this episode that were significant as well. Like Young June defending Hong being gay and slamming that guy's head in the table.
Yeah, because prior to that, all we had was Assam going, "Hey, it's kind of your business" sort of attitude about things. I got other shit going on, but yeah, Young Jun actually taking a very, very direct stance on the matter.
Right, and then when Father June comes in, like, what's going on? Nothing is going on. It was I think a great moment that shows that Young Jun is got Hong's back, and so it'll be interesting to see Hong in the next episode because Young Jun just defended him, right? While everyone's laughing at him, Young Jun comes in like, "Oh, I'm laughing too, ha ha," and then slams that guy's head against the table and sets the tone of, "You're not messing with Hong."
Hong, I think I mentioned it the last time we reviewed the last episode. Like, I was curious to see if he'd kind of become not so much a third wheel, but like a very important part of, the Hopway and really the partnership that Young Jun and Assam have with one another. I really thought Hong could potentially become part of that. I wasn't sure the way they were playing him out, but here we are. I feel like that is a very direct initiation, I guess you could say, into saying, like, I've got your back and I'm going to be loyal to you, which of course is a big theme with this show. So to me, that was a very big moment for his character, really, to say that, I think Hong's going to play a very big role this season. If nothing else, I hope, based on what I saw in that last episode, I hope Hong shows up out of nowhere, whether it's Leary, whether it's Zing, I don't care. Like, I would love to see that guy take either of them on. I'm ready. Let's do this. And hey, tell us what you thought. Tell us what you expect. Tell us anything you have to say about Warrior. We've been asking for this now for 4 episodes at this point, and when it comes, I feel like we get comments on various things. Warrior, we've had none at this point. So if you are one of those, lone fans of Warrior out there scouring YouTube to find out who's talking about it, and you came across us, now's your chance. Say something, because we're going to talk with you about it. We've also got Mandalorian next, Adam. We're going to start talking about that. So stay tuned. That means subscribe. That means click the bell for your notifications. Do your part. We'll continue to do ours. Is there anything left to say, Adam? You tell me.
Other than the fact, if you're not watching this show, I have to question why the hell you're not watching this show.
Right.
It's so good. During this whole pandemic where there's so little content going on, there is no reason anybody should not be watching this show. So
yeah, absolutely
watch the show, watch these reviews, and tune in for Mandalorian. Absolutely. My personal opinion, we may differ on this, but my personal opinion is season 1 of Warrior versus season 1 of Mandalorian. Will take season 1 of Warrior, personal opinion, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I will take season 1 of Warrior over season 1 of Mandalorian. So I can't wait for season 2 of Mandalorian. It looks good, but my God, season 2 of Warrior has been fantastic.
I agree. So, season two, we're talking about. I feel like we could have done a whole nother video on this. I'm just going to leave you with this, Adam. I mean, we're talking about an entire world that has been built since the 70s versus a world that was destroyed in the 70s by David Carradine and actually doing kung fu to replace what we're watching today. It's not a fair comparison, but I hear you, and I'm
just saying, TV shows, there is absolutely no reason you should not be watching Warrior right now, because it is amazing.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to Mandalorian 100% because I am a Star Wars fan, but oh my God, Warrior so far in 4 episodes has been amazing, all 4 episodes. So
yeah,
absolutely watch Warrior, and let us know what you think, and we'll talk to you next week. This is It Takes 2 Takes.
Hey everyone, Andrew with It Takes 2 Takes. We're playing some royalty-free music, so don't even bother Shazamming that one. We got videos over here I think you're going to enjoy, and there's a button over here I'm going to enjoy. Let's make this all work together, right? Please subscribe. Check out what else we have going on. Thanks for watching.